Hello folks, 2 seconds later. Remember our prop? This is a mirror. Represents a mirror. So, traditional time travel. If you can travel, light reflects off of me, reflects off all of us, and just travels into the past as we move forward into the future of us and stuff. And all the light that reflected off of us, all of that is the past. After all, when you say you're going to go to the past, where are you going to? Are you going to an actual slice of some place or whatever, we call the matter or whatever? Yeah, you know, but at the same time, you're also going to a place of all of the reflective light that is bounced off of us. So it's a big difference to say, I want to go to the past, which is not necessarily the past, if we're saying the past that I want to go to is a place where we're still really there, where a source is still there, radiating and stuff like that. That's a lot different than going to a past of past light that happened and stuff, because we understand that there needs to be a source, correct? Light, it doesn't make it, there's a source me that all my light is reflecting from, and energy, and I'm also emitting energy and stuff of a source me. If there's no source me, then where is the reflecting happening from? Right? Where am I radiating from? So there's got to be some kind of source us. There's got to be a source us. You know, an actual, an original. You know, an alpha. Right? Well, alpha maybe states a little bit more dominance or whatever. But an origin source, an origin you. Okay? If you're going to say that there's a multiple amount of you, there has to be an origin you before there could be a multiple amount. There has to be one before there could be more than one. It doesn't make any sense. You can't have an infinite amount of you without a prototype. How does it know what the variation is? It makes no sense. There is no variation. Well, there could be an infinite amount of versions of me. One's where I have long hair, where I have short hair. It won't know what kind of hair at all. Okay? If there's no origin start to, so that where the variation could occur from, where the reoccurrence could happen. You can't have a reoccurrence if you don't have an occurrence. Right? So light reflects off of everything in our world and stuff, and travels. In the same way I showed you that light, and that we can't see but we know it's there, well, so there it is. Also in the past. All of that moment between me and the coat rack, all of those moments in the past. If one person could travel faster than that light going into the past, well, and pointed yourself in a particular direction of it, or whatnot, it's classic, old school, then you could catch up to that past light. Right? And hence, you stop when you're satisfied as how far back you caught up to, and boom, you emerged, you're in the past. You're surrounded by images that already happened. The past. You then proceed to start changing things and affecting things because you want to affect and change the future, or the present sense. You start messing with things and stuff. And you're worried, of course, you're worried as well, because, you know, you don't want to mess things up, the continuity, or to some degree, and all of a sudden big changes happen, you know, the butterfly effect. But when you go and start changing things, nothing happens. Nothing changes in the present. In fact, what I theorized a long, long time ago, wrote a paper on it, if I went into the past and destroyed this coat rack in the past, the next second, even in the past, the coat rack would re-emerge. I would quickly notice, I destroyed it again, that it's impossible in the past to destroy the coat rack. Can anyone tell me why it's impossible in the past to destroy the coat rack? Because the coat rack isn't destroyed. It's not really destroyed because the coat rack still exists. Not only that, because the images of the past are images that already happened. So let's just say this an interval of 1 minute in the past, somewhere in the past. In that, for example, in 1 into 1 minute interval of somewhere in the past, okay, this coat rack always existed through that. It existed because it's existing right now. So it always existed. So no matter what I did in the past, no matter how much I destroyed that coat rack, the next second, the split seconds, even less than split seconds, probably to the point where it might not even appear like I can destroy it at all. I might not even visually see any kind of destruction of the coat rack. Maybe you see simultaneous. Maybe you see a whole bunch of mess and at the same time, but you still see the coat rack there as well. But the point is, you cannot destroy the coat rack because it already happened. And let's say for that 1 minute time interval, I can't destroy it because for 1 minute, that coat rack always existed. It always, in that particular relationship, relative to that interval, it always existed because it already happened. You can't change what already happened, right? And that is when, because that's no fun. That's no fun. crawlFace for party pooper, man. Come on, let's look back to the future. That's no fun. So all of a sudden things started changing. I said, well, when all of our forefathers, all of the great thinkers, all of our major breakthroughs, everything in direct or indirect way came or was involved with optics. We all knew. All of our greatest scientists and physicists, they all messed with optics and studied optics and understanding nature of light from many different ways, through the electromagnetic properties of a photon, the info light carrier and stuff like that. Everybody knew. Understanding light it opens up the doorway to everything in a way, So that was good back then. Now that's not good enough. So now that's when you get like this whole, next level stuff. Well, you're not going back just catching up to light. You're catching up to another world. The many worlds, the parallel worlds, the infinite amount of... The thing is, even with the holographic, right? The thing is, we can create the system, the moment, okay? But not so easy to show you the origin. Not so easy to show you the origin, because a holographic relationship, okay, is not exempt from this either. Stuff. Nothing is exempt from this. Nothing is exempt from an origin of whatever is involved. So you can't just plop a system of values and say that also the values, it would be impossible to draw an accurate amount of information for the values if the values didn't have some kind of origin source, some kind of origin nature to them. This doesn't necessarily mean in a classic chronological, in a classic temporal sense, like a beginning of time. But what's really cool about it is, okay, it behaves like a beginning of time. And that's very valuable. Why? Because we understand when we're getting back to the fundamental type of conditions and stuff, that time might become a little bit inaccurate, at least as the way that we understand it, which is not actually true at all. Time gets a very bad rap. Get it out of your head that time is an illusion and stuff that is entirely not true. Okay? Get it out of your head. Okay? Time is just simply a version or a way to record difference. Difference and stuff. So it's a thing. It is actually a thing. It's not, and the fact that we are able to create a term for it and to have an understanding and a concept of it and represent it, it's not in a fallacy. It's not inaccurate at all. It's brilliant. It's miracle-like. It's civilization defining to have that concept of time. Okay. And all time is trying to tell you, okay, all we're doing with time, in the most functional sense, in the mechanics of it, all we're trying to say is that we have a source, we have a thing, and we have an interaction, we have a happening, an occurrence. And then we have a reoccurrence. We have multiple amounts of something happening, an event, differences of it, or even the same, even if it remains identical in the occurrence. The point is, all time ever was, okay, was a way to represent the occurrence. Got us one, and then some easier ways to do it is, it's a way to measure the difference. And it's not just a difference in a temporal sense, and this is when we understand, and physics has shown us this. The Einstein equations and Planck's equations, so many of them are showing us this, why it's interchangeable. That's why time is interchangeable. It's equivalent. There's an easy equivalent. You could represent things spatially, and spatially can be represented temporally, and temporal can be represented spatially. And when we understand these better, that's how we can understand how other aliens and other life forms or whatever have their advanced technology, and they can be able to have their interdimensional travel and stuff like that, because we need a better understanding of spatial. Right? You need to understand that time is not separate. It's not a fallacy. It's not a conjured up, made up illusion thing. It's an actual property. It's an actual property of an interaction. Stuff like that. And so all things that interact, all things that are distinguished, have a nature or have a value of time, have a temporal value. Okay? That doesn't mean that we're treating it like the clock, or you're just saying time passes, but it is, but in an actual way. But what it's saying is that there's a difference. There's a difference in the state. There's the currents. And a lot of great thinkers have told you that without their difference, there would be no such thing. We would be back to the absolute condition, with no distinction, a perfect symmetry. Anywhere that you pointed, any moment of whatever is the same as every other moment. So in a way, time is the miracle thing. So, you have your mirror, and the light is reflecting off of you, hitting the mirror, coming back. So there you are. So there, that light that you see in the mirror is that light that you're going to try to catch up with by going faster and catch up with that, right? So, you go take a hammer, and you go take a gun, and you shoot the image in the mirror. Anything happen to you? No. Nothing happens to you. Nothing happens to you if you shoot previous, old images of yourself, light of yourself. So we think that the existence is in such a way so that the whole source of us, the origin of us, is in a multiple amount. You see how that doesn't make any sense? You see how that's inaccurate? It's impossible. There could be a multiple amount of us. There certainly could be multiple worlds. But all of those multiple worlds will behave like I described, with the light from the past. It's just previous light. Why? Because we understand that nothing is exempt from the relationship of an origin source, okay, and then all the reoccurrence of that source. You can't have multiple worlds without a source, something for the multiple worlds. Something. A source, something. How can there be an infinite amount of crawlFaces in all different versions if there's no original crawlFace? How can it just, it would, even if you attempted to create a world, a universe, where the whole point of an existence is suddenly at some point, no one crawlFace ever pops up. Suddenly at some one point, an infinite emerges. It never was ever one and then more. An infinite emerges from the very beginning. No, even if that was true, okay, even if we tried to force that condition, I would argue that that condition would still emerge or force an origin type. It would still result in an origin type. Why would I say something like that? Because it's impossible. You try to bear with me a little bit on this, okay? Because I understand there's some things involved, right? Because it's impossible to have stability. It's impossible for the system, for the value to remain stable if we truly stamped and forced and insisted that the value have no origin source and that it starts as an infinite. It would be unstable. There would be no stabilization. So you would never be able to have the infinite amount of yourself as a start in the first place anyway. In order to have an infinite amount of yourself, you must have that origin self. You have to. Get rid of the origin self and everything becomes unstable. There's no prototype. There's no fundamental value. There's no fundamental structure to the infinite amounts. The infinite amounts are meaningless. They just wouldn't be.